I woke up in the middle of the night and my heart was just racing and it wouldn't stop. And so it scared me. And my husband took me to the ER, and it did turn out that my thyroid count was high. And so I made an appointment with the doctor. And when I got there, he done blood tests, and I found out that I was type 2 diabetic. I have seen what this disease does to people. I have family that have this disease, and I've seen what it has done to them. And I didn't want that. And so it clicked. I've got to change.
Welcome to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Anna Zinn, plant-based registered dietitian and transition coach. Hi, friend. Do you want to regain your health with plant-based eating but feel overwhelmed and lost about how to do it? Do you feel it'll be hard to change your meat-heavy diet and impossible with working, running the home, or chasing after the grandkids? If so, you're in the right place. Here you'll find simple strategies, clear nutrition guidance, and practical tips to help you thrive plant-powered with more energy. So if you're ready to ditch the guesswork and transform your health the stress-free way, cozy up now with a hot cup of tea or listen while you walk, and let me show you how doable plant-based eating can be. Let's do this. I firmly believe that no matter where a person is on their transition, each person can bring something of value from their experience to share that can really support, motivate, and inspire others who are thinking of trying plant-based eating or who are already in transition. That's why today I'm excited to welcome another special guest to the Plant-Based Eating Made Easy podcast, Chrystal. Chrystal is a member of my Beginners for Plant-Based Diet Success community on Facebook. I'm so glad to have her here with us now. So hello, Chrystal. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well.
That's great. So to start us off, would you be able to share a little bit about yourself and your background with us? I'm sure our listeners would love to know.
Sure. I'm 45 years old. I'm married. I have a great, wonderful husband, and we have 2 sons. One's grown, one's almost grown. And we live here in Galveston, Texas. We moved here about 15 years ago and started a new journey. My husband started his own business, and we've just been doing really good.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for sharing that. So what was your diet, eating, or lifestyle like before you made the transition?
Wow. My lifestyle was not good, especially when it came to eating just whatever junk food I could find. Lots of sugary stuff. That was kind of the thing. Lots of fried foods, just no exercise, hardly any exercise at all. My husband and I used to do a lot of walking, and we used to walk 4 to 6 miles a day. And he is a type 1 diabetic, and he ended up with ulcers on his feet. And so we weren't able to go and do as much walking as we were. And so that kind of caused me to be home a whole lot more. And so without having much activity of being out, food is right there, and it kind of becomes an addiction. For me, I would eat and be on my computer. I would eat all the time. I was constantly eating something, but it wasn't good something either. It was, junk food, candies, cakes, cookies, fried foods, French fries. My husband and my sons and I, we went out to eat all the time, and a lot of fried foods, fatty foods there, meat, dairy. We ate it all.
Thanks for sharing that. I could definitely understand when you said about food being an addiction. I think as human beings, the pool of food is real. We go to food for so many reasons. Either it's for distraction or because we're bored or emotional comfort. There's so many reasons we turn to food. And like you said, when it's there and available and it's in the house, sometimes it can be even more of a draw to us. So I can definitely understand that. So before your transition, did you have any health diagnoses or any health conditions?
Yes. Before the transition, I had hypothyroidism. I had lymphedema. and I had high blood pressure. And I was taking medication. I am still taking some medication, but I felt horrible. My overall health just really felt bad. And I'm sure those illnesses played a big role in that too. But I know that the eating bad foods is one of the things that caused it. But at that time, I guess I really just didn't think about the food causing the problem. But yeah, with those diagnoses, it wasn't enough to get my attention, if that makes sense.
Yes, that definitely makes sense. I've talked to others in my community, and even events like perhaps a heart attack, 2 stents, different kinds of diabetes diagnosis. Sometimes that's still not enough to trigger a change or a real desire to make a change in the lifestyle. So what was the turning point for you then? What caused you to then really make that decision to move forward or to start exploring plant-based eating?
I think the first initial thought of it, my husband back in October of last year had a heart attack. He escaped the Widowmaker. And you would think that would have been enough to have made me change to see what was happening to him. But of course it wasn't. But I had purchased a book about diabetes, and it was a lot of plant-based. I didn't even really read it. I bought it for him to read. And little did I know I was the one going to end up really needing this. I woke up in the middle of the night and my heart was just racing and it wouldn't stop. And so it scared me. And my husband took me to the ER. And when I got there, it did turn out that my thyroid count was high. And so I made an appointment with the doctor, thinking all I was going to need was just my medication increased. And when I got there, he done blood tests and I found out that I was type 2 diabetic. And it was that moment that it just clicked in me. I have to change. I have seen what this disease does to people. I have family that have this disease. My mother, my sister, my brother, my dad, all have type 2 diabetes. And I've seen what it has done to them. And what's even scarier is, to me, the medication for that is just as dangerous, because the medication ended up causing my mother to have kidney disease. And she is now a stage 3 kidney disease. And I didn't want that. And so it clicked. I've got to change. I've got to do better. I do not want this for myself. I don't want this for my life. And maybe if I can find something that works, maybe I can help them to find something that works for them. And so that is where the turning point was for me.
Thank you for sharing this. What a shock it must have been when you went in to see your doctor and to be given the news of yet another diagnosis, right? On top of all the other ones that you've had. And so many of your family members have type 2 diabetes already. Besides your mother with the side effects of the medications causing renal disease, were there other side effects you've seen of the impact of diabetes in their lives?
Yes. My dad, it's messed up his vision. He has problems with vision now. My sister, I see that she deals with her blood sugars and stuff going up and down. And my mom, my sister, both are tired a lot. Now, my husband, he's a type 1 diabetic. And I have seen a lot of things that he's had to deal with. And he's had diabetic ulcers on his feet that caused him to have an amputation of one of his toes. And then later, they amputated 2 more toes. And now he has no toes at all. The top half of his foot is gone, because of the diabetes and getting infections and the ulcers. And so I've seen him deal with this. I've seen him be so tired because his blood sugar is so high, and just so many different things that even my own husband has had to go through, and seeing family go through. And when you find out you're diagnosed with it, you're trying to take care and help them, but you're not expecting it to hit you. And so when it did, it made me start to look at things so much differently. I know I don't want this. That was my thinking. I'm still thinking in my head, maybe they can see me change and they'll want that for their life too. That is, what I'm hoping and praying for.
Thank you for sharing openly about how your family members have been affected by diabetes. I think it's definitely true that diabetes is something we must take seriously. We know that in the United States, so many people have diabetes or are pre-diabetic, and it can impact, like you said, the kidneys, your peripheral nerves, so your legs, your feet, and your vision as well. So everything you said, I can see the impact of diabetes in that. I also have an extended family member who, because of diabetes, had to have his leg amputated. So I know that definitely affects mobility and also quality of life. And I think it's true what you said about how, especially for caregivers, we tend to put our own self-care, our own health on the back burner. We think we need to take care of all these other people and help them. But then it's actually flipped because we need to take care of ourselves first to be in the best health and condition and have the best ability to take care of those around us. So I'm really glad that doctor's visit flipped the switch for you and made you kind of see things differently and prioritize your health so that you can take care of those around you better. You said you hope that your lifestyle change could maybe impact those around you. And I think that's absolutely doable and possible because our loved ones are watching us. Subconsciously, they are noticing when they see the changes in us, in our body. And we're also bringing different foods and plant-based items into the home. So I always tell my clients that you are an important change maker and influencer in the home because you have the opportunity to do so much and to impact those around you. So after that doctor's visit, how soon after that did you decide to make that change to plant-based eating? And was it like overnight or was it like a gradual transition?
I made that decision that very day. The day I was diagnosed, most doctors, when they diagnose you, they give you a medication, they tell you some foods that you should or should not be eating. My doctor did not do that. When I got the diagnosis, he didn't even call me. He sent me a text message. And the text message said, "You're a type 2 diabetic. I'm sending over metformin and just take the medication as prescribed." And that was it. I was like, wow, that was it. And so that very day, I said, I'm changing. And I went and found the book that I had bought for my husband and I started looking through it and reading it. That moment, I was like a sponge, just absorbing all the information and learning what's best to eat for diabetics and why we shouldn't eat the meat and the dairy. I know that some people need to go into this gradually, but for me, that wasn't it. I just jumped right into it.
Wow, I'm just amazed at the way your doctor handled the situation in terms of just sending you a text and then offering medicine to manage the diabetes. Maybe it turned out to be a good thing because your doctor gave you so little information that you end up looking into making changes your own way. And you found that book that you had gotten for your husband and started reading it and started learning about plant-based eating. So it's been about a month, maybe 5 weeks or so since you started on this plant-based diet journey.
Yes, it's been, the 12th. So it's been just a little bit over a month. And just to add, with that fast transition, that overnight transition, I had a mindset that I'm fighting for my life and I can choose the food that's going to heal my body, or I can choose the food that is going to damage it. And, I chose that route for so long and I see where that's going. And so I just look at it as I'm fighting for my life. I can choose life or I can choose not to live. And if I look at it that way, for me, that is what motivates me because who doesn't want to live? And I think as long as I can keep that mindset, then I feel like I'm going to be able to go even further with it. That's just where I have to be for me. I know everybody's different, but that's how I have to look at it.
I think that's a great way to think about things, to have that mindset of fighting for your life and choosing foods that will give you life, help you heal, or foods that will actually damage your body. A lot of people think plant-based eating is just changing the foods in your kitchen and learning how to cook a different way. That is true, but there's so much more to a transition. And in order to make a successful transition, I always work with my clients on building a plant-powered mindset. And one of the areas is having a strong why and also setting some positive intentions. Building your mindset and your attitude will really make a huge difference as well in your success. So I think that's a great way that you have for looking at things to help you take these changes seriously. What has been a typical day like for you now in terms of eating?
It depends on my mood, really. In the morning, I always start with a 32-ounce cup of water. That's the first thing I do. And then while I've got my water, I'll take my medication, check my blood sugar, do all those kind of things. And then if I'm hungry, sometimes I make a big green smoothie. Sometimes I just want to eat some fruit and veggies, and so I'll just grab fruits and veggies and eat them. Sometimes I want something cooked, and I call them breakfast tacos. I like to cut up mushrooms and onions and bell peppers, and I cook them with some seasoning, and I put them in romaine lettuce leaves, and sometimes I have that. I mean, it just depends. Sometimes it's oats. Lunchtime, a lot of times it's a salad or maybe a soup. I usually have to cook for my family, and so I eat a lot of potatoes, usually at dinner time. I know a lot of people, oh, you shouldn't eat potatoes, but it just amazes me, blows me away that I can eat all these things and they're not raising up my blood sugar at all. And I think it's awesome. But I eat a lot of potatoes, and I've learned how to make a cheese sauce that it's not cheese. I call it my fake cheese sauce, but it's really good. I learned how to make a plant-based ranch dressing, and I also use that on my potatoes. Like I said, it just depends on my mood, but a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, oatmeal, grain. I don't use oil. Everything I do is all low fat. I try not to use any kind of oil at all. And then nuts and seeds, I only use those in my sauces, like my cheese sauce or even my ranch dressing that I make. I only use nuts for that because I'm trying to keep it as low fat as possible.
That's wonderful. So it sounds like lots of whole plant-based foods, minimally processed or unprocessed, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans as well. Is that right?
Yes, I do eat a lot of beans.
Great. And in terms of the cheese sauce, what do you make yours with?
What I usually do is I will soak my cashews for a couple of hours. And like I said, I keep it as low fat as possible. So I only use 1/4 of a cup. And I'll soak those. And after they've soaked for a couple of hours, I'll drain the water and put them in my blender. And I also cook potatoes and carrots. And when they're done cooking, I'll add those in the blender with the cashews and some of the water that's with it. I add in a couple of teaspoons of nutritional yeast, garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of salt, and then I blend that up, and that is my sauce.
Sounds a lot like the sauce I make as well. So thanks for sharing that. And for your ranch dressing, do you also use cashews for that?
Yes, cashews and almond milk, and then I put in seasonings like dill and things like that.
How wonderful. So you mentioned that you're able to eat potatoes and things, and you find that it doesn't seem to impact your blood sugars. And that's true. A lot of people are so worried about the move to plant-based eating because they think, once I move to plant-based eating, I'll be eating more carbohydrates or carbs. And how can I be eating fruits? How can I be eating grains or beans or other foods? Won't it cause my sugar levels to go up? But what has been your experience? How high were your blood sugar levels before you made the switch, and what has it been like lately, a month later?
So in the very beginning, my blood sugar levels, and this is fasting glucose levels, I was getting numbers like 158, 145, 158, and then as a week or two goes by, I'm seeing fasting numbers 120s. Then numbers like 117, 114. And now I am getting numbers like 107, 102. Yesterday and today both, I got 97. So I'm seeing my fasting glucose is really coming down. And I mean, 97, that's just almost normal, I think. So
Yes, that is. That is such an amazing, wonderful improvement in your blood sugar levels. And that's from eating all these foods, being unrestricted, but just focusing on the right foods, the right whole plant-based foods. Thank you, Chrystal, for all that you've shared so far in this interview. There's just still so much I want to hear about your health journey and about the changes you've had. I would love to continue this conversation in a part 2 of this interview. So our listeners, please stay tuned because you'll be hearing more about Chrystal's journey into plant-based eating and her transition, as well as the health changes that she's had in the next episode. We'll talk again soon, Chrystal.
thank you. I look forward to it.
I hope you feel empowered and encouraged to see what eating a whole food plant-based diet can potentially do to one's health. If you're now excited to learn more about plant-based eating and want to explore how it could truly help your specific situation with your current health challenges, send me an email at healthnow@plantnourish.com or apply for a free rapid health transformation call using the link in the show notes. Let's transform your health and life together through the power of whole plant-based foods. Thank you so much for listening. If this podcast has inspired, encouraged, or helped you in some way to transform your health, I would love to hear about it. Please take 30 seconds to rate and leave a written review on Apple Podcasts to let me know. It'll encourage me so much to hear how this podcast has positively impacted and made a difference in your journey towards wellness. And share about this podcast with a friend or loved one so we can all thrive in the best health. Remember, plant-based eating can be easy and doable. See you in the next episode, my friend.